Okay, here he is.
All right. Hey, can you
get going, Amit?
Yeah, we got you. All right, good. Well, we're live. We got 23 people in the show right now, but let's rock and roll.
All right, excellent. Let's get started. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Amit. I'm one of the organizers of this event, and this is our third year in a row that we are producing Decoding Adobe Summit for the technical community. So really glad to have Tad Reeves over here, principal architect from Aubrey Digital, and I'll let Tad introduce himself and we'll get this program started.
Great. Well, hey guys. So I'm supposed to be in an office, but I'm traveling, picking my daughter up from boarding school. I'm in Portland, Oregon right now, usually in Chattanooga, Tennessee, or or thereabouts. But I've been in the AEM space for 14 years or so, mostly in the ops, infrastructure, architecture type space. And yeah, podcast a whole bunch, and love talking about Adobe Summit. And my good buddy Raph is here too. Raph, you want to introduce yourself?
Yep. Hey, it's Raph Winterpacht. I am based in Chicago, and I am a director for Proficient. And I've been working in the Adobe space for, a good 14 years now as well. And before that, I had about a decade worth of work in a prior content management system too, known as Interwoven's TeamSite, which you may have heard of. So I've been around for a little while in this space. And we were at Adobe Summit, and we have, obviously some takeaways that we'd love to share with you and have some dialogue about that going back and forth. Sukumar, want to go next?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks everyone for joining. My name is Sukumar. I'm Executive VP at Ansira. I'm responsible for integrated CRM and loyalty services. So Ansira is basically a global marketing technology and services company. So my team basically offers the CRM and loyalty services. We are an Adobe partner, specializing in AEM, AEP, Adobe Campaign, Adobe Analytics, and Target. So I myself used to work at Neolane prior to acquisition with Adobe, and that's the Adobe Campaign product. And I've been in the MarTech space for the last 17, 18 years. And prior to that, I was in the supply chain space, all in the technology side, and then implementing technology solutions. Glad to be here. So what I will do is maybe I'll just get started here in terms of just giving some highlights in terms of key takeaways, why it is important for partners to hear about what happened at Adobe and what are some of the key takeaways, why it is very, very interesting times for partners ahead. I'll take 2-3 minutes and then we can dive into the details of the specifics of each one of those product areas. So obviously, I've been attending Adobe Summit since 2015. So this is my 9th year attending the Summit. And every year I come back, energized, and because Adobe is really, really a master innovator, right? So, you go to Adobe Summit, you come back, and they're paving the path for innovation, paving the path for industries and taking the direction in that way. A lot of good stuff happening, right? So purely from a partner perspective, we are all partners. I'm assuming a lot of people, attending the session here, they're all partners and they're implementing Adobe products on behalf of, their customers and so on. So a lot of exciting stuff. So I just want to give a few key takeaways on that. So partners, I met at Adobe are very, very optimistic in terms of what came about, right? So number one is, purely the content supply chain part of it. So content supply chain is all the things around AEM, Workfront, Firefly, Gen Studio, from content production to content, delivery, all the way through that part, that entire supply chain. And then there are huge opportunities in actually implementing that content supply chain pieces, modules, right? The second thing is personalization at scale. So it is all things about AEP, right? So it's AEP, CJO, Adobe Journey Optimization, those types of things, right? So there's completely, high level of motivation, confidence, services in that area, personalization at scale. And then third thing is, because of these things, there is a lot of pilots and POCs that is going to emerge. So partners are super excited about that. The second thing is the pipelines. Because of this, the pipeline, everyone is, super ambitious that they're going to grow at least 20% in 2024, right? Because of all this new product introduction. Although there is contradicting to this, there are some people talking about there's huge retainer type project like digital transformation project is going to go away, but it's going to be a lot more chunks, right? So a lot more smaller projects that's going to emerge. However, with AI, obviously, you cannot walk 10 meters without hearing the word AI these days. So there is going to be a lot of that AI components that is introduced during Summit, so which we are going to delve into a little bit more detail here. Because of that, there is going to be a lot of smaller projects. So partners are really, really confident that there's going to be 20% growth. And then the third thing is the value realization, specifically when it comes to personalization at scale with AEP. Adobe did about $800 million of services, licensed services, selling AOP in 2023. So they're expecting by 2025, in another 18 months or so, it's going to go up to 2.5 billion in licenses. But if you look at license to services ratio, it is at least 3x is what the services opportunity will be for the partners. And who's going to do all of this? It's all of us, right? So it's all the partner community here. There's a huge opportunity. So there's tremendous amount of excitement in terms of what we can do with AEP when it comes to personalization at scale. And then the last thing is AEM, right? So AEM is still a big, big part of Adobe's growth. So it is 40 to 50% is pipeline for partners is in the AEM space, right? And then if you hear a lot of things that are actually happening, the partnerships that are being established with Microsoft, with Copilot, and then with Deloitte, with Accenture, with IBM Watson X, everywhere with Content Hub, intelligent Content Hub, and people are talking about AEM is the foundational piece of it. So you look at AEM, there is going to be edge delivery services, there is enhanced authoring, there is built-in experimentation, there is content insights and reporting. So there are tons of new innovation that's happening in the AEM space. So these are some, I just wanted to start off with some highlights why it is so important for us as partners, that there is tremendous amount of excitement, tremendous amount of opportunity. So let's double click a little bit, deeper into AEM, specifically, what are some of those, the key things that were released and that takeaways that we have. And I think, Tad and Raf here actually experimented on some of those feature functions also. I think you guys will be excited to hear more about it. So Tad, you want to jump on, or Raf, one of you can.
I do. But I want to kind of go off of something that you were just saying, because the first part of Summit is Partner Day, and Partner Day has tended to, in some cases, been a bunch of very salesy presentations that as an architect sometimes are not terribly exciting. But this time it's been such a, you said you can't go 10 meters without hearing AI. I think it's a lot less. I mean, especially at Adobe Summit, it's just like it was every word was Gen AI. And the message that Adobe wanted everybody to hear is that they're differentiating in the space, that they have usable AI, because there's so many pieces of unusable AI that's out there, and so many types of technologies that really look nifty, but can you actually put them into use public facing on your website? And they've been trying to curate a framework by which you could actually put these things into use. So take it out of just a toy that looks amazing on a keynote, but you're still 5 years down the road, you're still not going to be using it. They're trying to make that point that you could actually use it. And there's and things like custom models in Firefly and so forth. A lot of the assets, integrations with Gen AI, the dynamic media cutouts and stuff like that. So if you wanted to see what a couch looked like with different color walls or with plants in the background or something like that, but you could just add some query params and have it just gen on the background and come up. So things like that, you go, oh, well, that I could see where that could be used. And what I'm super curious about is we got some, I'm just scrolling through the comments here. We've got some super strong names tuned in already right now. I'm really curious if anybody has already put any Gen AI stuff into play with a customer right now. And if you have, I would love to invite you on the stage just to say 2 words about that, because I'd love to hear about that, because that's the biggest thing, which is when you see the toys, at Adobe Summit, you go, well, that's a neat toy. But it's really, it would be genuinely cool if somebody has already put that into play. So if you have, please speak up.
Yeah, and I've had a chance to play around a little bit with the generating variations in AEM sites, right? So that was announced with a session. It was a virtual session. Cedric Hoyster had gone through some of the new features of AEM sites, and this generating variations was one of them. And it does really look like it's productionized, right? It is really something that's integrated with Target. You can integrate with a CSV that defines all your audiences, and you can target a specific audience, right? It lets you build out these different cards and these tiles and these, various heroes. You can generate an image based on some of that content. So that's really fascinating to me, right? But I think that what we should be cautious of too, though, in that space is, does that mean it's going to pollute your authoring system with all these different variations, right? It's still a management system, a content management system, so it still does really have to be managed. And I think this is where some of the governance really comes in. And you really still have to treat it with some real respect. I think it's very powerful, yes, but it still does deserve its respect when you're working in a productionalized environment.
Indeed. Well, in terms of stuff, things, because one of the neat things about doing this, and I guess some people have asked me, like, so you're going to do an Adobe Summit overview a month after Adobe Summit. Isn't that a little bit late? But the neat thing about it is that we get a chance to have some of these things, like have some of the neat presentation wear off, and try to use some of these things. And some of the releases have kind of increased in significance as far as I'm concerned. Little things that flew under the radar majorly, or were just one of the bullet points in a presentation that can potentially massively change an implementation. One of those that I'll just bring up. So something that you may not all know about, a bunch of you, I've seen a bunch of architects on this list, so a bunch of you totally already know about this. But there's the micro front end for AEM Assets. This is a front end which basically allows you to embed an assets front end into other applications and be able to select an asset that you want to go and pick and then serve directly out via publish. So these are published assets that can be served out of at this point any CMS. The number of assets implementations that I wanted to do, where I said, assets is great. Sometimes AEM can be a real chore to implement, and it's got its pluses and minuses and so forth. But AEM Assets is pretty strong. But getting it to integrate with a CMS that's a non-Adobe CMS or a non-AEM CMS has always been historically not just tough, but basically borderline completely impractical. But when you have a front end, again, this is only AEM Cloud, this is not AEM 6.5, sadly. But then again, Assets for AEM Cloud Service is also just a fabulous product. The fact that as of 4 years ago when Cloud Service launched, that you don't have to worry about piping all of your asset ingest through a single 6.5 instance. It's all cloud, it's all microservices, super fast. You can basically upload your assets at wire speed. But the fact that you could then use that centralized feature to then roll out an assets deployment for something that maybe doesn't even have any AEM sites, or maybe they're on edge delivery. Maybe you want to use a centralized AEM asset repository and use it with edge delivery. And there are some use cases. There's one that I'm working on right now with something like that. So it's with that, it's turned into one of these ones that's like, oh, that's a cool feature, but it actually really can completely change what you architect for. So anyway, that's one that I wanted to bring up.
No, so Tad, I just want to add one more thing to that, what you're saying, because of the so many assets, right? So there's also the thing that we saw, which is the integration with Gen Studio and the Adobe Assets, right? So with those two things, then you can actually search any kind of attributes within the content, right? So you can search anything, and then you can integrate with Firefly just to make sure from an organization and brand compliance, so it is all compliant. So that piece, there is an AI component with Gen Studio already integrated, what they were talking about there, right? So that's one piece. And the other piece, because of so many assets, searchable, etc. Now, what about analytics on this, right? So now all of these assets are actually going to be distributed to some channel somewhere, right? So it's in the website or email or whatnot. Now there is a reporting, because creatives always, when creatives can generate content and it's distributed to, one of this edge thing, Marketers always struggle to get that analytics data. Which piece of content really performed well in which channel, right? So now with content analytics down to the attribute level, for example, you can even say, hey, show me the content where, we had this individual wearing a yellow cap. How did that person wearing the yellow cap perform compared to person wearing the red cap? So you can go up to that level and say, hey, this yellow cap was served 15 times at this many channels, and then this is the conversion rate on that, right? That is the content analytics piece down to the attribute level, which can be used in a natural language, prompt way, right? So in an NLP way. So that was pretty amazing.
Oh, totally. And one thing, just to also kind of level set on what we're doing here with this particular meetup, is that the audience here is developers, and so as a result, I'm not going to be trying to sell you things. So let's talk about a couple of limitations there, and also opportunities for future features, because that particular feature is amazing to be able to go and have analytics on assets. It is so powerful, except for the fact that, like what I was saying with the micro front ends, if you're going to use something, like for example, if you use AEM Assets to deliver an asset out through Edge Delivery, you can include it with Edge Delivery, push it out, but now at that point, Edge Delivery is serving it, and you don't get analytics on its usage. So these are things that in the future, these are ways to be able to capture analytics on asset utilization would be amazing. And so that's just another thing, just filter into architecture while you're thinking about things. Let's see. Question here was, is Gen Studio part of Experience Cloud? Okay, so one thing here. So Gen Studio is a new bespoke standalone application, but to also be clear, it's not released yet. It's meant to be released in the fall. So none of us, even when we went to the Adobe booth, got a chance to put our hands on it. And the thing that we put our hands on when we thought we were putting our hands on it is actually a Figma mock-up of Gen Studio. So it's not out yet. So,
all independent, but
be a separate SKU.
It will be integrated with the Experience and the Creative Cloud.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, Ted, there's obviously a lot of developers that are in the audience here. I think that developers really took a focus for some of what we saw from Adobe Summit, right? I mean, everything around Edge Delivery services, being able to whip up a site, import a site, have that editable with these content blocks. Adobe's really been baking up some stuff here, which I think is very exciting for developers, really. I think your release cycles are very much quickened, right? You don't have to necessarily worry about, building out this simple static site and then having to wait for this, hour and a half pipeline to run for it to just get to dev, right? You can just do this stuff really, really fast and pushing it out to Edge Delivery services. So I think they really took a focus here. In fact, I think they took so much of a focus that from an organizational perspective, and even for partners, one of the things that they should probably do is consider all of what Edge Delivery Services has to offer, even before just scoping out something to go into AEM. AEM obviously is going to be there. You still have to have all those resources that can develop an AEM, but now with Edge Delivery Services, it's much different, right? And I think that things are going to shift to there more and more. We've got Universal Editor. It's easy to build the components and then all the content blocks. Like I said, the structure is very simple. There's still going to be, the feature parity, which isn't quite there yet. So, for example, things like having all the different swim lanes for development, right? All the different environments that are needed for that. But still, just developing and the agility that you can develop at, I think is pretty amazing. They're cooking up some stuff which is closing in on that parity more and more, right? We have different communities that we've been taking part of, and also kind of seeing what's following up. They're really fast follows. So I'm pretty excited about what's coming, just even in the next few months. So that's pretty exciting for developers, I think.
I would echo that same sentiment, especially with like if there's one thing that I think a lot of people got excited about a couple years back with the Adobe acquisition of Magento, which was that Magento had such a huge development community, and Adobe has never really had a huge development community because of the fact that it's so difficult to really get in. Like, you have to be in to be in. You know what I mean? You have if you're out there, like you go out on Reddit and people are like, hey, how do I learn AEM? Like, is there a way that I can get like a CRX quick start? You're like, I mean, I could, but it's legal. So there's no way to do it. But just finally just a way to get people into that ecosystem. And as we get more developers on there, it's going to be just faster to be able to get projects out. Another thing on that too is when it's faster to get projects out, then so one of the things too is like so you get AEM. One of the things that makes AEM so powerful is got workflows built into it, and so you have a workflow engine to do all your business logic and so forth. It's by 2009 standards, it was an amazing workflow engine. By today's standards, in terms of what can it fit into, what can it plug into, and so forth, it's a little bit 2009. But Adobe now has an amazing, probably the world's best workflow engine in Workfront. Workfront is really quite something. And some of those announcements made at Adobe Summit this year with respect to AI-driven content briefs going in and being able to go and generate like here's what needs to go in, and then it goes and generates the workflow items that goes and pushes things in AEM. These days too is if AEM is taking less time to execute on, and now you have a little bit more elbow room, you could go and implement a big actual real workflow, a real digital workflow for things using a totally up-to-date, world-class, world-beating workflow engine in Workfront. So there's that.
Tad, I have a minute. I want to just have a question, Tad, for you on anyone who doesn't know edge delivery services. Like, how about like if you just give like a 101, and also like just architecturally speaking, like what are some of the architectural changes like that developers need to be aware of?
Sure. All right, good. Well, let me try. Raph and I, you've done probably as much edge delivery as I have, so we can ping pong on this. But edge delivery, so edge delivery is a whole suite of services essentially that allow for document-based editing and delivery. It's designed around and more.
Yeah.
And more, but essentially the basic unit is a document, and in this case a very slimmed down document that is optimized for fast delivery, and with the whole design goal of basically making sites that are extremely fast to develop on, extremely fast to author on, and the world's fastest sites when it comes to delivery. So that's the design goal in this case. So had a bunch of names, and I don't think they're done naming it. I really don't think they're done naming it. So it's edge delivery. It's been called Franklin. It's been called Next Generation Composability Services, and it's been called Helix. A lot of the internal Adobe guys still call it Helix. Personally, I think it's a brilliant name. I love Helix, but
I like Helix too. But what I don't understand is why it's not just called AEM Live, because that's what the site is on.
That's the website.
It's AEM Live.
Done that too. Yep.
Yeah.
But it's terrifically fast, and it's it's flexible in terms of how you can get content into it. You've got a super low cost and low barrier to entry way of authoring content, which is with Google Docs. You can use SharePoint. You can use GitHub Markdown files, and there are there's a UI that is in development for this right now that is hopefully going to be released sometime soon, but basically is a browsable UI that allows for some more very, very interesting functionality to kind of bridge the gap between what people are used to with AEM and what people love about edge delivery, which is how fast it is to author it, and it is blazingly fast.
I think about not just edge delivery services and what it provides for end users, but again going back to developers. If you needed to build out a site in AEM, you needed to know a number of different languages and syntaxes in order to get that going, right? Like you mentioned the quick start jar. You need to know how to unpack that, how to work with things like run modes, and how to work with OSGI configurations, and working with components and extending core components, and potentially putting together workflows and editable templates. There's all that work, and then on the DevOps side too, right? There's Apache, there's dispatcher configurations, There's CDNs, which CDNs, I think, especially if you bring your own CDN, it's still going to be there. But there's all these different things that you had to know in order to just build a site. And you think about how long that would take, right? But now with edge delivery services, I think, it just simplifies that quite a bit. So
it's essentially CSS and JavaScript.
Yeah,
that's what you need to know.
There was a question about, what do we have to think about in terms of a focus for developing for edge delivery services? I think you need to understand, how content blocks work. That's relatively simple. There's still going to be the whole governance side of things and setting up, groups and users and all that good stuff. But I think from a development perspective, and us as consultants too, we need to understand these and how these things are shifting, going from AEM to edge delivery services, because I do think it's going in that direction. And with this whole crosswalk, which is something that's relatively new as well, crosswalk is where you can actually use edge delivery services to run on AEM, right? And now you're using things like Universal Editor, and you're out there, and they're trying to be CMS agnostic, right? I think that's the spirit of it. I haven't seen any other content management systems driven by something on Universal Editor, but I think that's kind of where they're going there with that. So that's pretty exciting to see too.
Hey, I want to take up a couple of questions that are in here, because a couple of these are really good questions here. So, Mohammed said, I heard there's very, very minimal dev effort required for EDS. Is that correct? So we're basically just taking the yes and just speaking from somebody who's in the middle of an edge delivery project right now. It is very fast. It is definitely requires less skill, and it's much easier to onboard designers and people too than a traditional AEM project. I'm not going to say it's like completely basics, but it is a lot simpler. It's a lot faster. There's another question there, which is what version of AEM have edge delivery services available only for those of AEM Pod? I'm going to give you two answers here. One is the answer from Adobe Sales when you ask them, and the other is the answer from me. Okay, so the answer from Adobe Sales is yes, it is included as a part of your AEM license. So if you're an AEM customer, you're an AEM Pod customer, then you get edge delivery services, and you can start just busting out on it, and you can. And the limit of the number of inbound page requests that you have is the same as the page request quota that you bought as a part of your AEM license. So if you have that, that's what you get, and that is the official answer on that. So if you bought 10 million page requests, then you get that across your AEM or edge delivery. Okay. The other answer is go to aem.live and do exactly what the website says. And it says build your site, and it gives you instructions for how to launch your site. That's the other answer. It tells you how to build your site and tells you how to launch it, and here's how you use the CDN, and then it says go do that.
Yeah, and I'm basically taking that second answer because my son, he's in college, he's in his third year of computer science, and he was looking for a project this summer to do, and that's exactly where I pointed him. I said, go build a site, go to aem.live and go and build a site. First of all, it's going to be skills that he can obviously make use of, but then it's going to look really good on his resume, right? And he starts looking for jobs. So I definitely encourage him to go there. And he's 21 years old. Wow, that's great.
Rock and roll. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing is, so in reality, it is Adobe's trying to get people in the door and developing on it. And if you are a major customer and you have major requirements and so forth, then obviously you're going to be talking to Adobe Sales about other things too. So, but if you are going to run your blog on it, and almost everything is just going to end up getting cached at your own CDN that you open up, like you attach it Fastly, and basically you're going to make like 55 times more backend requests authoring it than will happen to Adobe from the site actually running. So that's why Adobe isn't really policing you on that.
So Dan, we were talking yesterday, right? So which is some of this new functionality within edge delivery services can be developed within whether it's CSS or JavaScript on GitHub, etc. So I think there's like simultaneously 10 developers can work on it, right? Is that something?
Yeah, it is, and it's actually really conducive to that, because it's got so in a traditional AEM environment, you have like RDE, DevStage Prod, and those are your environments. And if you have two different dev teams working at the same time, and they need to share their code and get it reviewed or get it, whatever, you got user acceptance testing that's going on or something like that, then you only have those static environments that you have to work with. And provisioning more environments involves a lot more cost and infrastructure and all that kind of stuff. So it's a designing those all those different environments has been a major part of my job for the last 14 years. So these days, though, with Edge Delivery, you get an environment for every branch of your code. So you make a branch and say, okay, I'm going to work on the new header. All right, good. New header branch. Okay, good. Now I have a new header branch, and that you're working off of that site. You can share that with anybody and say, good. Are you cool with my new header? Good. PR. Now it gets merged back in. So and that's not the only development flow, but it enables you to do whatever development flow works for you to be able to bust things out. And you can go ahead.
The problem of content kind of goes away there too, because as you know, and I know that Adobe's been doing some work in that with the content transfer and content copy features in Cloud Manager, right? But that's always been a kind of a big issue too, is moving content between environments, right? Kind of have had to package it up and then download it and then go to another environment and then install it. And then, you got to be wary about overriding and merging and all this other stuff. Or the other way too, which I think is now supported in Cloud Manager, which is you build out a content set in your production environment, and then you can bring that to lower environments. So they've kind of, addressed it there. But with Edge Delivery Services, you're doing document-based authoring. It's the same document. You can just update your URL, and you're looking at the same content, but with a different set of code that's delivering it, right? So that makes it pretty helpful too.
That's right. And at the same time too, at that point, so one thing that AEM Super has going for it is a really robust and battle-tested set of versioning tools. And those are ones that have been, put through the ringer over the last, 10, 15 years. And and it's very known. We know how all that works. So if somebody goes and forks something up and it goes to production, then there at least is a known way of returning back to a previous state. Sometimes it's complicated, but at least that's very, very known. When you're using something like SharePoint as your document repository, then your versioning is only as good as track changes in Microsoft Word. And if somebody goes and blows away a whole folder worth of documents that was driving your site, you now don't have those documents. So it's double-edged, and is it right for every single environment? Absolutely not. But that's one of the things that is wonderful about this time to be alive, is that so one of my first summits that I went to, what period was 17 or 18 or something like that. Somebody was saying something. There's a big push to have everything go to AEM managed services and have nobody do any self-hosted AEM anymore. And I just loathe the idea of being put in a box like everybody's requirements have to be the same, and then you're going to go to this one solution and everything is my solution. And that sort of rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Right now, there's just like a billion different solutions. Like, what are your requirements? What are you trying to do? Because you can do it this way, you can do it this way. You can go Edge, you can go the new stuff. You can go document-based, you can go AEM. Go AEM mostly, and AEM with crosswork. You just say it's going to be AEM on-prem with some Edge delivery. And then you've got all these other solutions that plug into it. Like, just the number of cool partners. That was one thing I wanted to bring up about Summit, is that some of the Adobe partners are out there are just straight up cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so there's these guys that I don't know if some of you guys saw that interview I did with the guys from StreamX. It's a whole mesh-based delivery system for delivering dynamic content out. Super cool. There's other Adobe partners like it. Sometimes solving internationalization is really tough. But a bunch of Adobe partners have solutions around that, so you don't have to worry about infrastructure so much. Like there's stuff out there. So it's like a rad time to be an architect, because as long as you're plugged into what solutions are out there, you can come up with something cool.
Yeah, and it's the interesting thing about that too is it's changing so quickly, right? They're releasing these things so fast. I've thought for like a month or two now that I would sit down and do a comparative analysis between what's an AEM. AEM is a cloud service, and then what you get with Edge Delivery Services and all the different features. Is there a parity? And every time I try to sit down and think about it, and I start looking up and doing some research, it's like there's something new. that now has addressed this, and that's what I was saying. Like the feature area just keeps closing in on this. It's moving so fast, which is fantastic too. That makes it really exciting to work in this. I think because it used to be what service packs were once a quarter, and SDKs are about monthly. I see releases, on the Discord channel, all the time, every day. There's something cooking there. So that's pretty exciting. I like the speed at which it's going. That's great.
Krasimir, you asked, have you seen the issues with EDS, or the chance for that to happen is very low? Are we deferring clients to Adobe support to fix potential issues? Okay. So the support. So first of all, yeah, there's issues with EDS. The issues though are not what you think. So in terms of reliability of front end, that's been pretty bulletproof. And in terms of how much load can it take, it is night and day compared to AEM cloud service. It's which as anybody who's done a cloud service implementation knows, the auto scaling, whilst it is built into the product, it's still very challenging to get right in terms of the triggers that actually make it auto scale. And in some cases, there are scaling limits that were artificially imposed on customer. It's tough. One of the Adobe partners who had an edge delivery site that launched, and they did a Super Bowl ad. They had apparently they load tested before the Super Bowl ad, and they load tested the non-CDN site because they wanted to, and they threw like 1 million concurrent users against the non-cache site, and it didn't even budge. It was just like it was a blip. So that's pretty bulletproof. But I mean, there's other issues depending on also the document storage mechanism that you're using, and there are issues like SharePoint. It's got issues. I mean, it's meant to be SharePoint's great for document storage. It's not really great as a CMS. So there's a lot of things. So when you compare SharePoint to working in AEM, most people love working with Word docs. It's so familiar and so fast. And things like whole page copy paste, you can't copy and paste whole pieces of a page in AEM. It's not a thing. You can't do that. So things like that are amazing. There's a lot of backend problems. Updates not going, things not yet. The Microsoft Graph API, running into problems. There is stuff, and these are things that are actively being fixed. But there's just, you almost just kind of have to work with it to kind of know those. But in the chat we're talking about the Discord channel. That's one of the primary mechanisms for getting support is you can actually ask things really fast. We're not talking about Adobe support tickets, not like daycare style. It's you just ask questions, and I found a lot of people want to answer. So I've actually got better response time asking things on Discord than on most of my Adobe tickets. I don't know.
Yeah, the other thing too about Discord is that they have sort of live events weekly. They're getting people together, and they want people to come on and ask questions, and
yes.
they're sharing tips on just about every aspect of it. So I'd encourage people to join the community there. It's great.
Yeah.
Rob,
totally.
what time is it and what days is it at?
What was that?
Do you know what time and days? I think it's on every Tuesday. There is an event. Is that right?
Isn't it Tuesday or every X Tuesday or something like that? I forget.
Yeah, there's Thursdays. There's Thursday frequency, they call it too. Yeah, there's Thursdays.
But that Discord channel, they also they used to, so they still have. There is a Slack channel that a lot of us have been in and asking questions. A bunch of Adobe guys are in there too, but I think they mostly try to move people toward Discord, which is a better one-to-many type of a thing. And there's a lot of developers in there, a lot of Adobe engineers that are in there.
Yeah.
Oh, what else have we missed? What else have we not talked about? We talked AEM. We talked Crosswalk. Crosswalk is kind of an interesting animal too. I did a lab with Crosswalk. Were you in that lab, Raph, the Crosswalk lab?
Yep.
Done some stuff on that too afterwards, and it's like it's a really neat feature to have if you're almost entirely AEM, right? Traditional JCR AEM, and then you want to like have a one little microsite out on edge delivery or something like that, then you can opt that. Still trying to find, like, really figure out the ideal use case for crosswalk, like who's the right customer for that. Because a lot of times, the more you get into the requirements, it'll just be easier to do a standalone project in edge delivery. Just do it document based.
Yeah. So, when we started to play around with edge delivery services, it was called Project Franklin. It had just renamed to Next Gen Composability. We wanted to put together, obviously, a proof of concept around it, and we used Google Docs, and we built out a site, and we actually brought some of our blog pages over. And since then, I've seen, now I haven't really used it for a site just yet, but I've seen this import/converter tool that will basically crawl your site and then build out the documents in a matter of minutes. I mean, it happens so fast. So somebody has a question about migrating, right? How would you migrate to something like this? Again, a great use case is for marketing landing pages, MLPs, a lot of static content. That's a no-brainer. Bring it on over and start working with that. But the conversion tools have been really great. I've been really fascinated at how fast some of those work.
Yeah, indeed.
Pat, are you seeing certain industry verticals adopting edge use cases faster than others, or do you see any patterns in adoption, or it's still in the lab?
So I think it's a little bit too tough, too early to say. Like, if you go, so right now, you could just, if you're curious, one of the things that makes edge delivery so cool to develop in is that the whole ethos is it's supposed to be developed in the open. Like, you want everybody to just be developing stuff out. It's all client-side code, so your clients can see it anyway. So why not just open your GitHub repos to public? So unless you've got code that's supposed to talk to backend stuff, obviously make that stuff private. But in terms of like, what is the ideal use case for that is like brand new sites. Like, if you look at like what Cognizant did with Volvo trucks, right? So they could, it's like brand new site. They could just go and just put a whole bunch of work into making it in AEM, but they made it an edge delivery. And it's a, if you're going clean slate, you're going, okay, well, or if you've got a massive, like, mega upgrade, like let's say you've got like an immovable old AEM 6.2 site, and you're like, what do I do with this thing? Do I get it into the cloud service, or what do I do? Like, you're already basically rewriting everything. So if you're going to rewrite everything, then why not rewrite it on new stuff? It's fast. It's kind of the way that I'm saying is that if you got little stuff, you can do little stuff on it. But if you got a big rewrite, there's, especially also because the thing is about edge delivery is it kind of requires that you go about handling communications with backend servers entirely differently. Like, you don't have an application server that's making your backend calls for you anymore. It's all on the client side. So if you're going to have a backend database call or something like that, then you're going to have to refigure that out. And in some cases, it's a non-starter. In some cases, you go, yeah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. So I'm just over here checking on time. We've got about 9 minutes left, and there's one more question I think over here I want to take from Dayasagar, which is, which version of AEM have edge delivery services, and is it available for those who have AEM on cloud?
Yep, I think we took this up a bit earlier with the official and unofficial answers of that, but it should. So the official SKU is on AEM Cloud Service. So officially speaking, if you want edge delivery and you're a company who can afford AEM, you buy AEM's cloud service and you get edge delivery along with it. That's the official answer. And if you're a big company and Adobe's actually really going to care about licensing, then yeah. If you're Ted's Taco Shop down the street, then likelihood is low that if you follow the instructions on AEM.live, that they're going to come after you.
So I think we have a little bit more time left. Is there something that we didn't cover, Tad, or any other questions over here that you see? I don't know if we covered Project Dark.
I just want to highlight, Amit, I want to highlight just a couple of things on AEP front. So on the AEP side, there's they released something called as AI Assistant, within AEP. So obviously, AEP consists of real-time CDP, customer journey analytics, and AJO, right, journey optimizer. So all those three components. So what they were talking about is, there's implementation of full AEP, full suite AEP is going to be more, chunked up into smaller pieces, as I said earlier in the beginning. So it's going to be, implementation of just real-time CDP or implementation of AJO, or implementation of CJA, that kind of thing. More and more opportunities like that. And then with the announcement of AI assistant, so you can actually generate audience by using natural language prompts. So for example, you can say, hey, give me all the audience who abandoned the shopping cart in the last 7 days, right? You can ask a question, you will get an audience. And then that audience can be generated, not just based on what the data that's available within AEP, but you can actually query across. So they call this federated query composition, federated audience composition. I think that's the term they use. So even if you have like data in multiple places, AWS, Snowflake, BigQuery, etc., so it can span and query across multiple places and then bring your audience segment back to you, right? And then that audience can be distributed to any of your, whether it's campaign or media or whatnot. So you can do it that way. So, and all of this will help you in terms of, like zero copy data, right? So you don't have to copy data from one place to another place and push everything, ETLs running in the background. All of that is going to go away. So that's that's another, productivity thing that's going to happen when it comes to CDP. And then obviously they were talking about, using AWS clean rooms. So especially if you're pulling data from partners and stuff like that, then you can pull that data in the clean room and you can actually use this federated audience composition within the clean room and then use that. So this is all in the vein of deprecation of third-party cookie, which is now extended until January 2025. But you can still, when that happens, then a lot of this first party will take prominence. That's how it's going to be. And then with Adobe Journey Optimizers, so it'll automatically use Gen AI to generate email based on audience characteristics. So who are all this audience and what kind of characteristics they have. And then it will give you a recommended copy and image based on the integration within the, within AI with Firefly and all of that. So that's another, like futuristic thing that these features and functions coming within the part of AEP.
That's awesome. It's funny, using AI to generate things like that, using AI to do things like one of the features that just rolled out. It rolled out actually a couple weeks after Adobe Summit, which is the AI-driven layout variations in AEM. Stuff like that, it seems like can seem boring, but it's totally useful. It's like to me, it's a lot more useful than generate me an image of a unicorn with a post office workers. It's like you can't use that on your website, but something like AI-driven layout variations, or like we were just talking about the natural language search, or just silly stuff like the natural language search in assets that they're rolling out.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's one of these things too, that it's a boring feature. Nobody really wants to talk about search as a feature, but if you got to go pay, some photographer group, $40,000 to retake a bunch of product photos that you just can't find in your own asset repo, and then you realize that they were there all along, like, all of a sudden search is worth something.
There will come, Tad, there will come a time where, with NLP, you can talk to the database AEP, right? So CDPs and whatnot. You can say, hey, give me the segment, and you can define whatever characteristics you want within that segment. Segment is generated, and now you can say, push the segment to my ESP, send campaigns and schedule campaigns on a daily basis, send 30% on Monday morning, another 20% Monday afternoon, another 30% Monday evening, right? You just talk to it. And so all of this will just happen, right? So that will be an amazing, there comes a time, not far enough, but it will happen pretty soon.
Conversational campaign, Sukumar, the dream world, right? We want to
exactly.
be able to talk to the computer.
You just talk to the machines. I think there is no user interface required, right? So that's what it is.
Hey, Brian, so you're also asking about production sites that are out there. So there's a trick. So if you've got the AEM Sidekick for edge delivery, this is something that's really kind of kind of fun to use is that if you've got the AEM Sidekick and you go to either one of those sites that were just in there, the PGA Tour or Volvo Trucks, another one's like business.adobe.com is Edge Delivery. The blog is blog.adobe.com is Edge Delivery. I mean, basically almost every Adobe site right now is Edge Delivery. If you click on the AEM Sidekick and say view source, it'll give you the blocks. It'll show you the exact blocks that were used to create the site. And you can, if you've got that code running, like you cloned their repo, then all you have to do is just take that, paste it into a document. Now you're running a copy of their site. So you can actually reverse engineer anybody else's stuff if you want to think that. Well, I really like. Okay, this guy's got a really awesome menu. I want to see how his nav works because I want to design something similar. Just check it out and just paste it in there and it works. So happy to screen share. I'm not ready to screen share right now, but happy to screen share that if you want to.
Yeah, there's if you join the Discord channel too, by the way, there is some folks that have asked the same question, and some of the folks at Adobe have listed out certain ones that are on Edge Delivery Services. For example, maidenform.com, that's an actual integration that they had done with Adobe Commerce. So you can see some commerce integrations that are done with Edge Delivery Services as well. So that's pretty handy reference there.
Yeah, and that brings us towards the end of the hour. And our next event is actually going to be on Edge Delivery Services on July 11th. Adobe is going to be sharing. So this event is more like a precursor to it. So I think we had so much conversation on the Edge Delivery because it is actually one of the most exciting technologies I think that's come in the last year or two, right? It's not too old. That's going to be on July 11th. So just look out for emails. And I want to special thanks to Tad for making this happen. It's been a little bit tough from your travels to being in a coffee shop and making it happen, but thanks a lot. And thanks to you too, Raf and Sukumar. Thanks for joining. And one more comment to Tad's previous comment, which was if you have worked on AI and if you wanted to share something, please reach out to us. We would love to hear.
Oh, one last thing too. You want to make mention of our the live event in November.
So official, we are organizing a US Developers Conference on November 7th and 8th. It's going to be on a Thursday and Friday. So look out for updates in your emails, and website updates are coming up. But we are committed to organize and bring the US Adobe developers community together this year. So
absolutely. For any of you guys who've always wanted to go out to Berlin to adapt to, but could never never expense a ticket out to Berlin, then we're going to do something a little bit closer.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Again, thanks so much.
Thank you all for joining. I appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thanks all.